In 43 AD, Rome's insatiable pursuit of expansion turned its attention to the mist-covered lands of Britain. Emperor Claudius's legions crossed the Channel, establishing Roman rule through force and fire. The Iceni tribe, led by King Prasutagus, had initially forged a fragile alliance with Rome to protect their independence, but after Prasutagus's death in 61 AD, the Romans shattered that fragile pact. Soldiers humiliated his widow, Queen Boudicca, flogging her in front of her daughters and seizing their lands. This betrayal ignited a fire of vengeance in Boudicca's heart, and with it, a rebellion that would strike fear into the heart of the Roman Empire. The Roman exploitation of local tribes had spread like wildfire. Heavy taxes, land seizures, and brutal loan recalls fueled widespread resentment. For Boudicca, this was no longer just a political struggle, it was deeply personal. Fueled by grief, anger, and a burning desire for justice, she rose as the leader of the rebellion, rallying the Iceni and neighboring Trinovantes. The Trinovantes too had suffered at the hands of the Romans, especially after their capital, Camulodunum, was colonized by retired Roman soldiers, turning it into a symbol of oppression. To add insult to injury, a Roman temple to Emperor Claudius was built there, funded by the locals themselves. The rebellion's momentum spread rapidly. Seizing the opportunity while the Roman governor, Gaius Suetonius Paulinus, was campaigning in Mona, Boudicca struck first. Camulodunum was destroyed, its Roman inhabitants slaughtered. Next, Londinium was set ablaze, and Verulamium suffered a similar fate. The scale of devastation was staggering. The Romans, already stretched thin across multiple fronts, were stunned by the ferocity of the uprising. Boudicca's forces, swelling with recruits from the surrounding tribes, posed a genuine threat. However, Suetonius, a battle-hardened general, knew that a direct confrontation with such overwhelming numbers would likely spell disaster. He gathered his force of around 10,000 men, including veterans of the 14th Gemina Legion. Outnumbered by as many as 200,000 rebels, he knew that only through tactical brilliance could he stand a chance. He lured Boudicca's forces toward Watling Street, a narrow Roman road where the Romans would have the advantage of superior formations and discipline. The stage was set for a battle that would decide the fate of Britain. The day of the battle arrived. The air was thick with tension as both armies prepared for the inevitable clash. Boudicca's forces, bolstered by the support of tribal families, arranged their wagon train in a crescent formation at the wider end of the battlefield, ensuring their families could witness their anticipated triumph. This tactic was reminiscent of historical strategies used by other tribal leaders, including Ariovistus and the Sarmatians, who faced Caesar's legions. On the Roman side, Suetonius arranged his forces with calculated precision. The Roman army was split into its traditional structure: legionaries at the center, auxiliary troops on the flanks, and cavalry on the wings. This formation balanced strength and flexibility, allowing the legions to hold the line while the auxiliaries and cavalry could exploit weaknesses in the enemy's ranks. Though outnumbered, the Romans stood firm, confident in their discipline and battle-hardened training. Before the battle began, Boudicca addressed her army from her war chariot, her voice rising above the roar of her warriors. She urged them to fight not just for land, but for their lost freedom.
I am not fighting for my kingdom and wealth. I am fighting as an ordinary person for my lost freedom. Consider how many of you are fighting, and why. Then you will win this battle, or perish. That is what I, a woman, plan to do. Let the men live in slavery if they will.
Her words echoed through her forces, igniting their hearts with resolve and fury. On the Roman side, Suetonius spoke to his troops with calm determination, reminding them of their superior training and discipline.
Ignore the racket made by these savages. There are more women than men in their ranks. They are not soldiers. They are not even properly equipped. We have beaten them before, and when they see our weapons and feel our spirit, they will crack. Stick together. Throw the javelins, then push forward. Knock them down with your shields, and finish them off with your swords. Forget about plunder. Just win, and you will have everything.
The engagement opened with a thunderous charge of British war chariots, wheels hammering the earth, warriors launching javelins into the Roman ranks, attempting to break the line before the infantry even engaged. The Romans held firm. Their shields absorbed the onslaught, and the chariots eventually withdrew, unable to penetrate the disciplined wall of men. A tense silence settled over the field. From her chariot, Boudicca watched. Then her voice cut through the stillness. "Now, the time has come." With that, she gave the order. The tribal host surged forward as one, a wall of bodies, shields, and fury that seemed to shake the very ground beneath them. The roar was deafening. Suetonius held his line. As Boudicca's warriors closed the distance, he gave the order to release the first volley of pila. The javelins tore through the air and into the charging mass, piercing shields, wounding men, breaking momentum. Those hit were forced to discard their shields, leaving them exposed. A second volley followed before the warriors could recover. The charge stumbled, but the sheer weight of those pressing from behind drove them forward regardless, directly into the Roman shield wall. That was exactly where Suetonius wanted them. His legions shifted into a wedge formation, the point driving into the heart of the tribal mass. The narrow ground funneled Boudicca's forces together, stripping away their greatest advantage. Numbers meant nothing when there was no room to use them. Then the cavalry hit from both flanks. Riding hard from the wings, the Roman horsemen carved into the exposed sides of the rebel force. Warriors who turned to fight the flanks left their backs to the legions. Those who tried to run found no room to do so, because behind them sat the wagon train. What had been arranged as a proud gallery for watching families became a wall of wood and wheels sealing every escape. Horses, carts, and crowds of civilians blocked the retreat entirely. The warriors were caught, crushed between Roman steel at the front and their own wagons at the rear. The slaughter that followed was systematic. The legions pushed forward step by step, their gladii finding gaps in armor, their shields driving men from their feet. The rebel formation, so fearsome in the open field, collapsed under the pressure. What had begun as a charge ended in a rout, and the rout ended in a massacre. By the time the sun began to set, the field was unrecognizable. Thousands of Boudicca's warriors lay dead. The wagon train was overturned, supplies scattered, families caught in the chaos. The rebellion was over. Roman casualties were minimal. British losses were catastrophic, though the ancient figures, running into the hundreds of thousands, almost certainly reflect exaggeration rather than reality. Boudicca's fate remains uncertain. Tacitus claims she took poison rather than face capture. Cassius Dio suggests she fell ill and died shortly after the battle. Neither account can be verified. The consequences rippled through the Roman command as well. Poenius Postumus, prefect of the Second Legion, had refused Suetonius's order to march and join the campaign. When news reached him that the battle had been won without his men, he fell on his sword in disgrace. In Rome, Emperor Nero replaced Suetonius with the more conciliatory Publius Petronius Turpilianus, a deliberate signal that the era of harsh military rule in Britain was over. The policy shifted toward accommodation rather than confrontation, but Boudicca's legacy could not be so easily managed. She had come closer than anyone to driving Rome from Britain entirely. For a people crushed by taxation, humiliation, and broken promises, she had risen, fought, and made the empire bleed. That was not something Rome, or history, would easily forget.